What is up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, April 5th, 2019. Thank you for coming by this live stream. If you're a replay viewer, I've got good news. You can first go to the comments below and go to a pinned comment if you want to kind of skip around to the video. But in this actual live video, I am going to just jump in to the video. So I don't imagine there's going to be a ton of people on this live stream. It's a really weird time, 3 p.m. Eastern. So let's do it. The title of this video is Bitcoin going to go parabolic. Well, I'm going to start off by giving my opinion. And you know, this isn't like a call or anything, but this is just my opinion. And I want to work it into answering the question of, is Bitcoin going to go parabolic? What I'm going to work in is my answer, which is a tweet that I just put out. I said, it's my opinion that we will probably see 4K range again fairly soon for Bitcoin. We'll probably go live shortly to discuss, again, opinion, not financial advice. So I'll underline that by saying retracement to $4,000 is not a bad thing. And in the grand scheme of things, could be a bullish move for Bitcoin. And so, you know, I know that we had a nice run to $5,000. So if we go back to $4,000, it sounds negative, but it's really not. If you're a long-term investor, you understand that. But we're also going to talk about the upside too, the parabolic situation, because many are wondering, many think that it's going to go parabolic. Many think it's going to crush right through the $6,000 area. $6,000 area for Bitcoin is an incredibly huge barrier, right? So if Bitcoin actually continues this run and this move that it's been on and breaks through $6,000, it's going to be doing some other things at the same time, which will most likely cause Bitcoin to just kind of go crazy, right? And in that case, I think most analysts there's not much you can do, but keep just resetting your support as Bitcoin keeps going crazy. And you can see that just in the parabolic move of Bitcoin, when you see it making those crazy moves, it goes so fast, right? So especially on the shorter term charts. Is my sound okay? I see somebody said sound is left. I think if your sound is your left speaker only, I think that would be on your computer. So we're gonna discuss, you know, what plays into Bitcoin going parabolic. We're gonna discuss what goes into Bitcoin going back to 4K, right? Which is partly what I believe will happen. So let's talk about this. I want to start on the weekly chart. So on the weekly chart, we have just really strong synergy between the charts. A little bit of differences, but in the grand scheme of things, very similar move for Bitcoin, right? We talk about that all the time. We don't need to talk about it right now. On the weekly chart, what I want to talk about is testing the 50 moving average on the weekly. That is a continuation of this flow and harmony of Bitcoin from that last bear market. Bitcoin had a nice run, right? And this was really the definition right here, back here. Try and zoom in here. Back here, that was like the definition of the end of the bear market, right? That was that first big move. But where do we see resistance? We saw resistance at the 50 moving average, and we retraced pretty much all the way back down to where that massive run started from, right? So Bitcoin saw, starting at around 200, let's call it $220, saw 45% gains to the 50 moving average, and then in the following weeks, it went back down and actually even lower, right? And we tested the 200 moving average for support. In the grand scheme of things, that move was actually very important. It was actually very healthy. However, if you were living in this month to 2 month period in that downtrend and then that retracement back to that area, it wasn't very fun. It didn't seem very healthy. And that's the type of move we have to prepare for today for Bitcoin. So, it's nice. It's always nice when Bitcoin's going up, but Bitcoin always hits resistance. Historically, 100% it always has. And moving forward, it's always going to hit resistance. It's never going to just keep going up, everybody. So if we can prepare for that resistance, I think we'll be well off. So the situation where we're getting rejection, right, on the upside, on the longer term upside, or actually I should say short term, mid-term upside, really, in the coming week, let's call it, a move to $5,700, a move to that 50 moving average is definitely well in play, right? And to the upside from where we are right now, we can get an idea of what that looks like. It's around another 12% or so for Bitcoin to the upside. That can continue, right? In the middle of that happening, we have some resistance with this long-term trend line stemming back to April that we've been talking about, because right now that's where we've seen a lot of resistance. Now, if Bitcoin breaks the 50 moving average, right, and we don't see resistance there, and I'm wrong about any retracement down to 4,000, which we're going to talk about, that's a situation where, Bitcoin is just kind of going to do its thing, right? And it's going to, I'll still be doing TA videos and I'll still be going live and stuff, but it's going to be an extremely fast moving market for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrency and altcoins. And it's almost impossible to keep up with it from a technical analysis standpoint because it moves so fast, right? And especially if we're looking at the 4-hour chart, it's just like Bitcoin in a parabolic move just keeps breaking resistance that we're looking for. And then we have to reset resistance. We have to reset support. That's what it's going to look like. But if Bitcoin breaks the 50 moving average, it's a very possible scenario. So that is that parabolic move. So really that $5,700 area, if Bitcoin, in the next week or so, makes a move to the 50 moving average, $5,700, then look at that area. Watch that area like a hawk and see what happens, because we can very well get almost immediate rejection off of that area to the downside. However, if we break above that $5,700 area, and we actually, if it happens aggressively, then really keep your eyes open, because Bitcoin could kind of go crazy. And a scenario like that is actually in that bear market as well. Right after that 50 moving average rejection we talked about in that bear market right here, the healthy move, everybody's feeling the pain right here, not knowing what's about to come. An even more beautiful move for Bitcoin, right? And that's this. So we're anticipating two things, right? Rejection here, followed by downside, or a parabolic move to the upside because we break that 50 moving average. I tend to think we're going to see resistance at the 50 moving average more than anything. So we break the 50 moving average. What did Bitcoin do in October 2015 when it did that on the weekly chart? I mean, it wicked up all the way almost 100%, 90 to 100% in the following 3 weeks. Incredible gains for Bitcoin. So Ryan Schaub, $10 super chat, says, "You're going to do TA videos, huh? LOL. That always makes me think of something else." For the LAUNCHPAD. $10 for the LAUNCHPAD. Ryan, I appreciate that. Thank you. Going right to the LAUNCHPAD Foundation. I got to sit down and do my spreadsheet for this thing, because I want to track what we've been raising since I started putting everything towards the LAUNCHPAD Foundation. And I want to have just a live look every day, even when we're doing a live chat of what you guys are putting towards this, because it means so much to me and I'm excited about it. And I know I keep saying I need to do the spreadsheet and have a running tally, but I just keep dropping the ball because it's been so busy, but I will do it. So thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. So it's really simple, actually. We're 12% away from knowing if Bitcoin is going to continue this parabolic move, in my opinion. We're also 12% away from knowing if Bitcoin is going to see rejection, right? So, and that 12%, just for context, again, if you weren't here, we're around 12%, maybe a little more, maybe 13% from that $5,700 area, the 50 moving average on the weekly. But in the immediate short term, I'm talking today, kind of piggybacking off my tweet that I just tweeted, I said I think we'll probably see 4K. Now let's talk about that a little bit. So first off, and we can even see it on the weekly chart. It's not as zoomed in, but you can see we've hit our target on the upside almost perfectly. We had two targets. We had the height of this ascending triangle. We had the head to the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders that we've tracked. And then we have the breakout, and we hit both targets. And at the same time, simultaneously, we've hit this longer term white trend line extending back to April, right, of 2018. So from an upside move for Bitcoin in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, 7 weekly green candles. And then, I mean, this little one, this red one, barely a red candle. So we're talking almost 9 weeks of just upside, right? Bitcoin has seen 61% gains in the grand scheme of things. And we've hit our targets, bullish targets, 2 bullish patterns. We've hit them to the upside at this trendline resistance. So that data alone just leads me to feel we're going to have a retracement. We're going to have a consolidation pattern. And furthermore, on top of that, and I'll actually, do I have a daily chart open? Let me see. I do, right here. So on top of just that data alone, the other thing is this, and since I started this channel, really, we've talked about these breakouts and these patterns, whether to the downside or the upside. A conservative trader or investor, most often, even before entering, right, like a long position, will anticipate a move or a retracement back to that main trend line of resistance that it originally broke out from, right? So in this case, that is right around that $4,000 area. It's around $4,100 in terms of these charts. So, someone that's conservative would anticipate a move back down. And so for context, a move back down, and this plays into my whole tweet about going back down to 4,000, we're talking about 18 to 20% to the downside. And in general, that's really nothing for Bitcoin. That is simply just another day in crypto. There's no other way to say it. It's not that big of a deal. If you look at the zoomed out charts, it happens all the time. I mean, 20% is actually, if you've been around and especially if you endured the bear market, 20% seems like nothing, right? That's a beautiful area to accumulate. That is why I do these videos. That is my approach to the market. That is what I'm anticipating. Would I love a parabolic move through this trend line up to $6,000? Heck yeah, I would enjoy that more than anything else. But realistically, a retracement to $4,000 area, extremely possible and plausible. I want to say this for everybody that doesn't like that or doesn't want to agree with that, because I know there's many of you. It might not happen. We might not get a retracement because we've talked a lot about this pattern that we've broken out of, this ascending triangle. We have these higher lows. We have this resistance area that we broke up from, right? That's the ascending triangle. The inverse of that was the bearish move, the descending triangle of lower highs, right? And this $6,000 support. Well, what happened then when we broke to the downside? I tell you right now, I believe I did a video when we broke to the downside and started consolidating a little bit. I said, let's anticipate at least a retracement to the $6,000 area to see if we break back above that. And this is kind of a failed breakout. Guess what? That never happened. And in a similar case right now, I mean, this is like a mirror image if you look at the screen. And even if you really want to talk about it, 1, 2, 3, 4, it was 4 days of sideways consolidation. And then Bitcoin just, boom, continued to the downside, right? So let's see, 1, 2, so far we're in like that third day of consolidation. Tomorrow would be the fourth. Sunday would be that fifth day where if Bitcoin was to follow exactly, again, this inverse image and follow that to the upside, Bitcoin on Sunday would break out to the upside, right? If it followed it perfect. And what would happen is you'd see just a break above that trend line that I think we'll see resistance at. I don't love to be wrong, right? But if I have a stronger feeling that we're going to get resistance and go back down, that's the situation I want to be wrong in if I'm going to be wrong, right? Because I didn't really lose anything. I lose something when I'm way too bullish and then we go down. So I'm always a very careful person. So being careful, I'm anticipating more a retracement to this trend line. We got a super chat for $4.99 from Boston. Boston, appreciate that super chat. Going right to the LAUNCHPAD Foundation. Appreciate your support. You've been around a long time, man. I appreciate you. And I also appreciate how incredibly easy it is to pronounce your name, because some names are tough. Some names are tough. Thanks for the super chat, Boston. Appreciate you. So retracement to that area. Now, that's, we're on the daily chart now. So let's pivot over to the 4-hour and really dig into this a little bit. And this is kind of where my 4,000 to really be really closer to exact comes in. So it's essentially really $4,000 to $4,100, but the 4-hour is where I'm really looking for support upon a retracement back down, right? It's not even so much this upper trend line in the ascending triangle that we're saying let's see if we retrace to. It's actually more this 200 moving average on the daily chart, or I'm sorry, on the 4-hour chart. It's a very important area for me in terms of like if I'm really watching this, not on too quick of a time frame like the hourly, but if I'm really watching this on the 4-hour chart, because I'm engaged with Bitcoin right now, obviously key area of resistance, overextended here, then I'm really going to look out for in terms of moving averages, where's my support really at? And right now it's around $4,000, just above $4,000. And, very confluent with this trend line on the triangle. So there's many reasons why that's a key area of resistance for Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, support for Bitcoin. And we can dig into that data a little bit, right? So what I did was I said, overextension. And we do overextension and we look at it on the daily chart and the weekly charts, and we can do it on the 4-hour chart. And it really is, besides Fibonacci, it's what paints this picture of all these ups and downs, like massive ups and downs, right? And it's that overextension area, and it always gives us one of the most solid clues in terms of accumulating or just being very careful in an overbought environment, right? And that's currently kind of what it's been like. It's kind of been overextended, overbought. So if we take the 200 moving average and we look at the overextension, and I guess I could probably do overextended as of right now to be even more exact. But at one point we were 35% overextended. But now we're right around 25% overextended from the 200 moving average. And that's pretty overextended on the 4-hour chart. And historically, if you zoom out on the chart on the 4-hour, that's higher than average overextension before getting some type of pullback or retracement. And I just marked a couple scenarios where, Bitcoin was overextended and it simply didn't keep going is I guess the point, right? So here was 12% overextended, nothing crazy, consolidated a little bit, and then actually came back down to test the 200 moving average for support. Here was an overextension back in December. Everybody remembers that bounce off of that swing low. That was 23% overextension back here. Bitcoin did not continue to the upside. It did make a little bit of a quick, bounce back up, but saw immediate resistance and then consolidated again around that 250 moving average, right? And then I went back to the last bear market on the 4-hour chart. This is the 4-hour chart. And I just wanted to take a couple data points and just see what was happening on the 200 moving average for Bitcoin, right? So, and this is all within context of everything we just looked at on the weekly and the daily chart. So 37% overextended, and that actually might have been from the 50 moving average. Let me see. Where did I get 37%? $10 super chat. It's all right there in the chart. Show Dan some love. If you can, please like, share, subscribe, donate. Dude, Liquid Canvas with a $10 super chat. Thank you for that infomercial, and thank you for that commercial. I really appreciate it. It's going directly to the LAUNCHPAD Foundation. And yes, hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers. It's been a slow, grueling process from 19,000 for whatever reason. But we're getting there. So appreciate that, Liquid Canvas. Appreciate you very much. Thank you. So I have 37% overextended on this, and I literally have no idea why. So it obviously wasn't 37% overextended in January 2015. So let's ignore that and delete it. I don't know why I put that. I think I was measuring from the 50 moving average there. But we do have 20% overextended from the 200 moving average on the 4-hour back in February 15th. Remember, we've talked a lot about that first move for Bitcoin after the Litecoin move February 8th. So that was kind of the beginning of that right there. This was really that range at the beginning of the bottom channel for Bitcoin in that last bear market. And then I have the real true extreme breakout for Bitcoin, 45% overextended from the 200 moving average back in November 2015, which kind of signified, if you look at the daily and weekly chart, the end of that bear market, right? And this is more in line with where a lot of people think we are these days. But my point in just illustrating this is simply to say, look at the retracement. We had great gains, and then we had a retracement right back down to that moving average. And if you look at moving averages and whatever, if you're on the daily, the weekly, the 4-hour, 333 super chat, $3.33 super chat, LTC fam is the greatest. Hello, Uncle Donnie. What an awesome screen name. Hello, Uncle Donnie, and thank you for the 333 super chats. And I agree, LTC is the greatest. Appreciate you going right to the LAUNCHPAD Foundation, and thank you. So retracements to the moving averages, very important. And you can just see, again, we're on the weekly here, but what happened back on the weekly when we hit that 50 moving average is this. Retracement, right? So awesome gains, retracement almost to where it all started. And it's a symbol, it's a sign of consolidation, and it's just part of defining the bottom channel for Bitcoin, right? And we've talked about that so much on the channel. If we get our rectangle out, just kind of this $4,500 to $2,500 area. And I know we never went down to $2,500, but this is kind of like that bottom channel that we've anticipated. And so if we're going to really consolidate somewhere in this bottom channel, then this is part of that happening is retracements, right? And especially retracements to very key moving averages. So on the weekly, you check out that pink line, the 200 moving average. Very important to look out for that if we actually break further to the downside below this $4,000 area of retracement that I'm thinking that we might see. So those are kind of my thoughts. I have a tweet that I tweeted earlier today, like early in the morning. I said, from swing high to swing low, Fibonacci retracement provides us a clear area of resistance to look out for on Bitcoin and Litecoin. And I said Bitcoin $5,200 range, and Litecoin $95 range. So this is kind of on the 4-hour chart. I wanted to discuss this because if we look at what has most recently happened with this most recent run up, right? somebody commented, and this is really what I wanted to answer. They said, so we use Fibonacci to see where the resistance areas might be, correct? I'm trying to get better at TA. So I wanted to talk about that. So this is the 4-hour chart. And, everybody, we all know this move happened for Bitcoin. We hit resistance here, like right around 53.50. And we've come back down. Anytime we have just a move like this, I'm always just, you can do nothing else but wait to see if it keeps going, right? And it just forms this crazy looking bunch of green candles that there's not much to do with from a technical analysis standpoint. But if it doesn't do that, then we look for consolidation. We start looking for the formation of new patterns. And Fibonacci comes into play with that. And you can see how when we start using it on the 4-hour, when we start having some data to work with, right? So since that really strong move up on April 2nd, it's been a few days. So we're starting to get some data that we can work with. So in reference to that tweet and in reference to what he was asking, so we're using Fibonacci to see resistance, I just replied, yes, I almost always use Fibonacci to see first area of resistance. Often the Fibonacci retracement begins to define new patterns. In this case, resistance would be a lower high, and we could be forming into a falling wedge. So let's look at what that might look like. So here's a swing high. That's not my Fibonacci retracement. So here's a swing high, and here's our most previous swing low here. And we have this area, which is that 786 is 618, and this is the 4-hour chart. And this is the channel that we always look for key resistance, or on the flip side, key support. If you notice, and it's almost never a surprise to me, we have always a key area running right through the middle of this channel. We have this long-term trend line of resistance running right through this channel, right? And this trend line was here before we even made this run and tested it. But you can just see the resistance in that area. It's just there. And right now on the 4-hour chart, it's running directly through our Fibonacci retracement. So from swing high to swing low, you have Bitcoin potentially making its way on up right now to this channel. So it's like $5,200 down to $5,100, around that area. And that's that first key area of resistance we look for. So from there, it might not get there, right? But if it does, what we're looking for is resistance. And suppose it gets to 5150 or something, and then we start going back down and seeing resistance yet again at this trend line as well, then we're going to start having a pattern in play, right? And this is something that I might be talking about in a video and tomorrow or the next day, but it would look something like this. We have this new trend line forming. It's a new formation, and this is what we're always anticipating, some type of new formation. So the question then remains, how will that formation play out? And that's why we do technical analysis. That's why we keep it updated. That's why I try and do technical analysis videos often for all of you. And here we go. The key area, if we do get a bounce off of this resistance area, this white trend line, long-term since April, and this Fibonacci retracement area, if we get a bounce to the downside off of that area, we'd be looking at this previous swing low now around $4,700, and we'd say, okay, we have probably two patterns in play. Number one would be this type of triangle if we get support here, right, on the downside. So it'd be a descending triangle. Or if we break this area and actually see a new lower low, then we'd have a falling wedge, right? I'd rather see a falling wedge than I would a descending triangle. So, and I know I'm talking a lot, but this is kind of more like educational. I'm trying to show you how I do my technical analysis and how I track patterns and how I use Fibonacci. Because I know I've been getting a lot of comments. I see a lot of people also just trying to learn and trying to do their own technical analysis. And I think it's awesome, because at the end of the day, it's truly not that hard. You just have to learn the patterns, learn how to use Fibonacci a little bit, and just kind of develop an eye for the chart. Anybody can do this. Anybody can learn to do this if you want to take the time. So that's it. On the 4-hour chart, that's kind of what I'm doing. I just, every day, opening it up, seeing what's forming, how is Bitcoin consolidating, and then I'm anticipating certain patterns so that we can start having more context, at least on the shorter time frames, on what to track and what to anticipate. So that's pretty much the general feel for where my head's at right now. And this 4-hour chart plays into why I believe we might see $4,000. It's simply my approach, my thought process. It's nothing more. There is technical analysis that suggests why we would see 4,000, and it's very simple. It's a retracement to this upper trend line in this long-term ascending triangle that we have on the chart, and that would be extremely normal because it happens so often. Retracements to previous broken resistance areas, right? So it's not only the upper trend line of that triangle, it's also the upper trend line of this inverse head and shoulders that we broke out of. So a revisit to this area, not a bad thing. So I know 4K, it says $4,000 Bitcoin in the thumbnail of this video, but I can't stress enough that it wouldn't be a bad, terrible thing if it happened, right? And we get actual support somewhere along the 200 moving average on the 4-hour. It would be healthy for Bitcoin, healthy support here for Bitcoin. And then we can start looking at, well, now what's more of a midterm pattern that could be forming if Bitcoin hits in that $4,000 area, because then we start having new data in a more longer term, or at least a midterm range, right? If we get support here. So that's kind of what I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's kind of what we look at. And then on the flip side, if you weren't here at the very beginning of the video, there was that parabolic situation it's very much in play. I just want to say that. And that is to say, the 50 moving average on the weekly chart kind of illustrates that. And I'm sure we could dig into the daily chart and kind of see as well. But the 50 moving average kind of shows that very well, which is to say that last bear market, you can see what Bitcoin did when it just saw almost 100% gains right here in that month. It broke through that similar long-term white trend line right here, and then tested that, or I'm sorry, that's not even the right one. It broke through this 50 moving average right here, and then we saw, I think it was 91% gains in these weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, 90% gains through the 50 moving average. So it really is a question of, well, in this time around, are we here, right? Resistance at the 50 moving average, a bounce back down, right? Or are we here, where Bitcoin's actually going to break through and kind of go a little crazy for a second? And for a second, I mean, maybe weeks, right? And we see continued upside. That's up in the air. Nobody can answer that question. I can't sit here and tell you what's going to happen. I can only sit here and tell you what I think will happen. And it's since we've already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green candles on the weekly chart. We're below the 50 moving average. I tend to think it's time to see some consolidation, right? So I tend to think we're going to see resistance here, and we're not going to have that parabolic move yet. However, if we do see consolidation over the coming weeks or whatever, and we start seeing a little red back down to $4,000, as I'm saying, or even to the 200 moving average, which is around $3,500, if we come back down, then we might be setting up for that next parabolic move that everybody wants, right? Those really nice gains that's going to define the end of the bear market. And that would be very similar to what you have going on back here. Support at the 200 moving average, and then just Bitcoin climbing out of the bear market. Now, from there, everybody knows what happens, right? And we're talking date range wise from that move. We have two all-time highs, 115 weeks. So on a positive note for everybody, if a bull market is to ensue, whether it is right now, right? Which I don't think it is. I do not. I think we're going to consolidate for some time here. Not that long. But a couple months, or if it is a couple months here, there could be very nice times ahead for everybody, right? In terms of entering a bull market, entering an environment where Bitcoin actually begins trading above the 50 EMA. This blue line here, Bitcoin starts trading above it, similar to that last bear market. If you just zoom out on the charts, this is a weekly, so you have to keep in mind this is all very, this is a long period of time that we're looking at in terms of zoomed out. This is years and years. So the one most truest thing that we can use and we can just infuse into this entire live stream, this half hour of data that we just looked at for Bitcoin, the one most important thing that you can sit there right now and do with that data is infuse patience. Inject patience into what you're thinking and feeling. So remove the emotionality, right? Remove the emotionality out of the situation here. Grasp patience, because we're going to need it no matter what happens. Even if Bitcoin goes parabolic here, you have to just take a deep breath and you have to get ready for retracements. And then on the flip side, if Bitcoin sees resistance here and goes back down, you have to take a deep breath. You have to have patience, because if you're a long-term investor and you're somebody that's dollar cost averaging and you're trying to buy the dips, then you have to leave the emotionality out of it so you can be prepared and have a clear mind in doing that. And that is something that you should not listen to YouTubers in regards to doing. You should absolutely 100% not take financial advice from anybody, but take the data that people are throwing out there and make your own decisions. But I think that the charts are really clear in terms of one thing, which is to say bottom range for Bitcoin. And this is really cool at the end of the day. After a very long year, bottom range for Bitcoin in that bear market, very clear, right? Very clear on the charts. And now bottom range for this bear market becoming extremely clear on the charts. So whether we have a week, whether we have 2 months, 3 months, we're getting close, everybody. I truly believe we're getting close, and we're going to find out what happens next very soon. But in the immediate future, $5,700, 50 moving average, really good area to look out for in terms of Bitcoin. And then on the 4 hour, again, we can talk about the immediate resistance where we've seen it at this trend line right here, and also just these targets. We got a Maddie Light donated $40 to the LAUNCHPAD Foundation. Dude, Maddie Light must be a Litecoin fan with that screen name. Maddie, I so much appreciate a $40 super chat from you. That is ridiculously awesome. And I see we also have Kevin Claypool, $2 super chat. Dan, longtime listener, just wanted to say thanks. Kevin, Maddie, thank you, both of you. That's ridiculous and extremely encouraging, going right to the LAUNCHPAD Foundation. And that's awesome. And I love it. Maddie Light, you guys are awesome. I can't thank you enough, but I get so humbled every time I hear that little ring that we get a super chat. So thank you. Much appreciated, everybody. So that's pretty much it, right? All that, almost 40 minutes worth of data. And what can we do? What can we do, everybody? All we can do is sit back, utilize patience, and just watch what happens. Alan Maciel. Where's the bell? I don't have the bell. I know. You know why I don't have the bell? I just feel like it'll be too loud for everybody. I think it would be just too much ringing. So let's do this. I'm curious, everybody in the chats, if you could you press 1 if you think, and let's go to the weekly to ask this question. I want to go to the weekly to ask this question because really this is the foundation of this entire video. Do you think, number one, Bitcoin going to make an extremely large move, right? Through this, similar to this last bear market, through the 50 moving average right here, around $5,700, a strong pulse up through 5,700, through 6,000, and kind of go a little crazy for the coming weeks. Press 1 if you are that bullish, if you think that's going to happen. Press 2 if you're maybe more conservative and maybe saying, I think we're going to get a dip to 4,000 at the very least to retest this trend line, like Dan thinks. Maybe you want a retracement to accumulate more. I don't know. Press 2 if you're that. I'm not going to call it bearish because it's not bearish. I think that's an okay mindset to have. All I see is 2s. Wow, really? I see 2s everywhere. Does anybody have a 1? What kind of world are we living in? Has a 1. What kind of world are we living in? Is the only bullish person in here that thinks on this weekly chart we're gonna break through this 50 moving average. I think edit name permabears be like, we're gonna dip back to $3.2 thousand. Why? Because I missed out on the opportunity. That's so true. I am sure there are people that want retracement because they feel as though they missed the boat. And hopefully, they're not ones to FOMO into this move. But very interesting. Many people think we're going back down. And I feel like it's partly the data that's on the screen. It's almost common sense, right? It's crypto, anything can happen. Bitcoin goes crazy, right? Especially when nobody's expecting it. So we could go parabolic to the upside, but zoomed out on this weekly chart, it almost is common sense to look at it and say, okay, Bitcoin is actually overbought and it's kind of ready for a retracement. There's one piece of data I didn't talk about, and I meant to, which is on the weekly chart. It is the RSI, because there's something I want to just show you real quick. When Bitcoin made this move, right? When Bitcoin made this move right here and right here, so 2 areas, once through this long-term trend line to the upside to be rejected by the 50 moving average, and then once through the 50 moving average, an even more bullish move for Bitcoin, I just want to take note of something. It wasn't until breaking through the 50 moving average on the weekly that you see the RSI in that overbought area, right? That first move, Bitcoin was not in the overbought area on the RSI. And we can check that out if we just kind of look at that timeline. So I say that, and this is for any just bullish people that are just saying it's going to the upside. That is one thing on the weekly chart in terms of momentum that you have a leg to stand on, because this first move where we tested the 50 moving average, Bitcoin not in the overbought area, right? So from a technical perspective, momentum perspective, Bitcoin could have realistically continued to the upside, right? Before seeing rejection in the overbought area, like what happened here. So at the same time, I want to say this. It's almost a very identical move for Bitcoin in terms of where it is in the RSI. It's not overbought on the weekly. It's overbought on other momentum oscillators, but on the weekly, on the RSI, not the stock RSI, obviously it's on the quicker moving oscillator, it's overbought, but on the RSI, it's not. And so there's definite room for upside on the RSI. So that is that one thing of momentum Bitcoin has where it really could penetrate and go through $5,700, $6,000. However, historically, if Bitcoin is to continue following with beautiful harmony that last bear market, then what happened then? It's right here. Rejection off the 50 moving average, consolidation down a little bit, not a bad thing. Beautiful setup, an amazing time to accumulate, oversold on the stock RSI, approaching the lower end of the RSI before continuing back up to see some parabolic gains, right? And then all at the same time, you can see while it was oversold on the stock RSI, when it was consolidating on the RSI, it was seeing support at the 200 moving average. So at the end of the day, if something like that happens, we get a little consolidation on the RSI here, pulls back down. We get oversold on the stock RSI in the coming weeks, and we come down and see support at either 4,000, the top of this trend line on the triangle we've been tracking, or the 200 moving average, even more a more critical point around $3,500. For me, this is not financial advice. For me, $3,500 to $4,000, it will be a beautiful area of accumulation, and I think it'll be one of my most recent, probably heavier areas of accumulation if we get a retracement to the downside to that area. So it's literally this entire channel, $3,500 to $4,000. The charts would most likely, especially on the weekly here, line up perfectly in terms of that is where I buy the dips. From a technical analysis perspective, that is where I buy the dips. And that is what requires the patience to not only just look ahead and anticipate that situation, but wait for it and really just be patient for it. So for context to the downside, if we don't go parabolic and break this 50 moving average on the weekly and have some fun with it, and we do go back down, then we're looking at around 20 down to 3,500-ish, 20 to 30% to the downside. And that is the red that I buy. That is the fear that I buy. And then we continue our technical analysis and we just continue to have some fun with defining this entire bottom range for the entrance of the bulls, because they're coming, everybody. They're coming, right? And it's something that makes it so exciting. And this isn't even just from a technical analysis perspective that the bulls are coming, because even from a technical analysis perspective, from the charts, a new season is coming. The clouds are clearing. The sun is starting to show its face. We might not be there yet, but we can see it in the distance. We can see the sun glimmering through. And so not only from that technical analysis perspective, but from a building perspective, the technology that is cryptocurrency is lighting up the world. It's changing the landscape of the world from a data perspective, from a privacy perspective, from a payments perspective. The monetary system is being threatened for a massive shift, a massive change. And you see it, you see the numbers of it, you see the price of it, but the technology that underlies it all is incredibly sound. It is incredibly strong. And that, I think, is one of the things that makes me really bullish, is just that fact alone. The charts lining up after a grueling bear market is one thing, and I think it's beautiful. But the technology that underlines it all, that is even more beautiful. And the startups that I see being built in this space, that are just hiring. They're hiring engineers. They're hiring business development now. They're hiring product managers now. They're hiring product leads, design leads. I'm not talking about the back end anymore, the infrastructure anymore, which I did a lot of recruiting for last year. But we're starting to talk about the front end. We're talking about the consumer facing end, the business development end. They're starting to hire for those things because it's time now that this technology begins to make an impact on the entire world. And for that to happen, you have to have your front line. So not only do we have our front lines with all the Bitcoin and Litecoin ambassadors, all of you out there right now and here, many of you on Twitter doing your thing, hitting the pavements for adoption, but you have companies doing the same thing. You have an entire ecosystem of startups, of just retail investors, just pushing for the growth of the space. And it's lining up perfectly with the entrance of a bull market. It is coming, but just we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves in terms of price. There's always potential for pullback and consolidation. Historically, it's there, it shows. So we will see what happens. If you guys are here right now, the liquid canvas, $5 super chat, 4-year cycle has ended. Litecoin, Rightcoin, paper money won't last. Liquid Canvas, I think that's your second super chat of the day. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And I agree, paper money won't last. It truly won't. And I also agree, Litecoin is definitely the right coin. And we'll probably be doing a video on Litecoin a little bit later. Really wanted to focus in on Bitcoin, the king of it all, right? The king of all the cryptos, Bitcoin. I wanted to focus on it. There's so much going on, so much data to look at, to absorb, and it's very exciting. So everybody, if you're here right now, if you've never been here, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to that 20K. I'm not one to always beg for subscribers and stuff, and I'm not begging, but help me get to that 20K, please. I don't know why it matters. It doesn't. It's just a number. I think it's just because I want to turn to Sarah and be like, Sarah, Sarita, I hit 20K. So I appreciate all you guys. I really do. If you got any value out of this video, please hit the like button, share it on Twitter, do whatever you will. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you. You've helped me a ton in these markets. I hope I can offer some value to all of you. Super chatters, thank you so much for the LAUNCHPAD Foundation donations. It means so much to me. It means more than anything. It means more than anything that I could possibly be doing in the crypto space. So thank you so much. I will definitely see you all in the next video. Follow me on Twitter for more up-to-date updates in case price does move. Crypto Capital Venture on Twitter. I hope you have an amazing Friday. I will see you all in the next video. Have a great, awesome day, and God bless.